All right, so let's talk about Disney. They've given us some of the most memorable heroines ever. But have you ever noticed that lately something feels a little different? We're going to dive into a really interesting critique that suggests in the push to make heroines strong, Disney might have accidentally made them all the same.
The whole idea we're exploring today kicks off with this pretty bold statement. The argument is that modern Disney heroines have kind of become interchangeable. That they've gone from being these unique, fascinating people to just representing one specific cookie-cutter idea of what a strong woman is supposed to look like.
So what does that actually mean? Well, the perspective we're looking at says it's not just about a character being strong. It's about them following a super specific and, honestly, pretty predictable pattern, something it calls the Girlboss formula.
And here's what that formula looks like. First, you've got a character who's amazing at everything right from the get-go. No training montage needed. They're also usually kind of walled off emotionally, and they almost never make a real meaningful mistake. They don't really need friends or family to succeed. And of course, the big lesson at the end is almost always that the power they needed was inside them all along.
So what's the end result of all this? According to this critique, you get characters who feel less like actual people on a journey and more like, well, like walking slogans. I mean, how can you have a real compelling character arc if there's no real internal conflict? If they're already pretty much perfect from scene one?
And this is what's so wild, right? This whole thing stands out because, as this analysis argues, Disney used to be absolutely brilliant at writing complicated, messy, and fascinating women. So let's take a look back at what that used to look like.
First up, let's talk about Mulan. She's brought up here as basically the complete opposite of that modern formula. She's a hero whose strength is 100% earned through a whole lot of failure and struggle.
Just look at her path. Her story doesn't start because she's some prodigy. It starts with an act of love to save her father. And then, we get to watch her fail, a lot. She's clumsy, she's not the strongest, she literally gets told to pack her bags and go home. She only succeeds when she stops trying to be the best soldier and starts using her brain, her wits, and relying on her team. We see every single step of that growth.
And that's the whole point, right? Her power at the end feels real. It feels earned because we were there with her through all the mud and the humiliation. Her victory means something because we saw the journey it took to get there.
Okay, next up, let's look at a totally different kind of strength, but one that's just as powerful. Princess Jasmine. She's a fantastic example of how a character can be incredibly strong-willed without giving up her kindness or her desire to connect with someone.
I mean, this line says it all. It's so iconic. She's not fighting against the idea of love or marriage. She's fighting for her own agency, for the simple right to choose her own path. It's such a deeply human and powerful thing to want.
And that's what makes her so complex. Yeah, she's headstrong, for sure, but she's also curious and open-minded enough to listen to Aladdin and see a world beyond her palace walls. She falls in love, but it doesn't make her weaker. In fact, it fuels her resolve. She proves you can have a backbone of steel and still have a soft, open heart. And that combination, this argument goes, is something we just don't see much anymore.
And that brings us to our final case study. A character this analysis holds up as maybe the best written modern woman in Disney history, Megara from Hercules. You know that cynical, sarcastic personality Meg has? Well, it's not just a funny quirk. It comes from a place of some serious, legitimate trauma. I mean, look at this timeline. She falls deeply in love, sells her literal soul to Hades to save him, and then the guy just leaves her for someone else. And as a result, she's stuck, heartbroken, and enslaved to the god of the underworld. Talk about heavy baggage. And that backstory makes her actions completely understandable, right? She's not cruel or mean, she's guarded. She's protecting herself. So when this big, naive wonder boy Hercules shows up, of course she's skeptical. Her defensiveness feels so incredibly real because it's completely earned. But here's the thing. Her true strength, the thing that makes her so amazing, isn't her tough exterior. It's her decision to push past all that trauma and allow herself to be vulnerable again, to love again. It's this incredible idea that real strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about having the courage to be open and gentle even after you've been broken. Okay, so let's put it all together. Mulan, Jasmine, Megara. What's the secret ingredient they all have that, according to this argument, seems to be missing from so many of today's heroines? Well, it really comes down to two totally different definitions of strength. On one side, you have the modern idea. Strength is being perfect, needing no one, and being totally invulnerable.
But on the other side, you have what these classic heroines show us, that strength comes from connection. It comes from growing through your mistakes, and it comes from having the courage to be vulnerable.
So, why the big change? The argument here is that it's not about progress. It's about a loss of trust in us, the audience. The idea is that Disney became afraid that if a female character showed any flaw, any vulnerability, we'd all just call her weak. So instead of giving us complex, nuanced people, they started giving us simple, easy-to-digest messages.
And that really brings us to the heart of this entire critique. That the most empowering, the most relatable kind of strength isn't about being flawless. It's not about being invincible. It's found in just being human. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. In the quest to create strong female characters, has Disney forgotten how to create people?